This is Ingram Angle from New York City tonight. Bad actors, shiny objects. That's the focus of tonight's angle. I think of many favorite tweets of the day. This was really my favorite tweet of the day. It has to be from Scott Adams of Dilbert fame. So far, Trump's second term has been a huge success. He has several major SCOTUS victories, looks better than ever compared to Biden, and the Jan 6 theater just went full Jussie. You can't win harder than that. Oh my God, I was screaming reading that. Well, pretty much sums it up, doesn't it? Now, there are a lot of shiny objects being dangled in front of us lately by the Democrats, and a few of those diminutive never-Trumpers. And I'm here tonight to tell you that none of them will have any measurable effect on the midterms or really change the public's realization that under Democrat leadership, America's just going down the tubes. Now, the first attempted distraction or shiny object, a former aide to Mark Meadows, Cassidy Hutchinson, was slotted into what was billed as a special, super-duper special session of the January 6th committee today. And I spoke with some former White House staffers, 3 or 4 of them, in the afternoon, and they knew her well, and not one person had anything good to say about her performance today because they watched. Especially the second-hand claim, supposedly from Tony Ornato, another Trump aide, that was supposedly one of their big blockbusters, that somehow Trump was desperate to get to the Capitol by any means necessary.
He thought that they were going up to the Capitol, and when Bobby had relayed to him, we're not, we don't have the assets to do it, it's not secure, we're going back to the West Wing. Tony described him as being irate. The president said something to the effect of, I'm the acting president, take me up to the Capitol now. To which Bobby responded, sir, we have to go back to the West Wing. The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel. And when Mr. Ornato had recounted this story to me, he had motioned towards his clavicles.
Okay, this is bad acting. Now, this was the tidbit that the media, they've been waiting for years. Finally, they had Trump.
He wanted to go up to the Hill, as we heard, and he assaulted his own lead Secret Service agent in that vehicle as part of his attempt.
That's going to stick for a lot of people. The President of the United States, attacking a Secret Service agent.
The president's in real trouble, not least for assaulting his Secret Service agent. Tubin. All right, one little problem here. It looks like it never happened. A source close to the Secret Service is telling Fox that Bobby Engel, Trump's lead agent, and the president's SUV driver are both ready to testify under oath that neither was assaulted by President Trump. They will also say he never, quote, lunged or something to that effect for the steering wheel. And wait, there is more, because according to CNN's Shimon Prokupes, a Secret Service official said that Tony Ornato denies telling Cassidy Hutchinson that Trump grabbed the steering wheel or an agent in the first place. I can't wait to see that surprise hearing, Liz. And as their surprise witness testimony blows up in their faces, there's another problem for the Democrats. It turns out the voters just don't care about this January 6th charade. A new CBS poll finds that the lowest number of voters polled consider investigating January 6th a high priority, while most consider it a low priority. Well, all the while, the bad news keeps streaming in for the Democrats. More than 1 million voters in 43 states have now officially switched their party registration to the GOP in just 1 year. But don't worry, because the Democrats and their media supporters are hoping abortion's going to galvanize all these suburbanites and save the Democrats from a midterm rout. Well, unlikely. According to the AP, nowhere is the shift more pronounced and more dangerous for the Democrats than in the suburbs, where well-educated swing voters who turned against Trump's Republican Party in recent years appear to be swinging back. And just when you thought things couldn't get any more dire for the Democrats, she's back.
Do you miss the day-to-day of politics? Is there any scenario in your brain that you would think, I want to get back in?
No, but I miss it. I
I miss it. There's no scenario in 2024 that you would even remotely consider.
I can't imagine it. I really can't. But what
I don't know.
but what I can imagine is staying as active and outspoken as I can.
That's right. While Hillary plays coy, she's out doing the media rounds, auditioning clearly to run in place of old Joe. She's vibrant, she's strong, right? Why can't she do it? Now, doesn't this sound like a Democratic presidential candidate to you?
I've been saying for quite some time, I think the filibuster should be eliminated at the very least for constitutional questions like voting rights, like a woman's, constitutional rights to make decisions about her own body. This is going to, I hope, wake up a lot of Americans. Women are going to die, Gail. Women will die.
Is that going to go on the button? Vote Hillary, women are going to die? All right, the leftist media are already assembling their Hillary Amen corner. Chris Solis at CNN is gushing, the whispers of Hillary Clinton 2024 have started. And John Ellis is raving, now is her moment. And being the political sage that Hillary is, with no concern at all for the voters, she's betting it all on Jan 6th.
I think these hearings have been incredibly powerful. I hope the Justice Department is paying attention. I hope in these midterm elections, candidates and the Democratic Party pay attention. If there were ever a time to vote, and to vote literally for your rights and our future, it's this midterm.
Literally. Now, the woman is now, and always has been, a complete and total fraud. No one cares about the sideshow. They care about the fact that they're getting poorer every day that Biden is in office. So Americans out there, you hear it, right? You feel it. In their own way, they're begging for relief. They want their old country back. They want clean, safe streets. They want a situation where parents aren't worried that their kids are going to die from fentanyl, where families can actually, heaven forbid, afford a summer vacation. And where optimism about the future living here in this incredible country of ours is shared across a broader array of demographic groups. That's the America we love and we all deserve. The January 6 hearings, the abortion scaremongering, the Hillary revival, none of it will add up to a better America. And Democrats don't even care. They never have. And Americans, they're onto them. The shiny objects have lost their luster. And the bad acting, it's just not funny anymore. It's just bad. And soon, this show will be shut down for good. And that's the angle. Joining me now is Molly Hemingway, editor-in-chief at The Federalist, Fox News contributor, and Stephen Miller, former senior advisor to President Trump, founder of America First Legal. Molly, let's start in reverse order of the shiny objects that we discussed. Let's start first with Hillary Clinton emerging on the scene this week, kind of playing coy with 2024, but I think it sounded like, without a doubt to me, Hillary is back in the game.
Yeah, she's not known for subtlety, so it didn't come off coy, and it's really a sign of desperation on both the part of the Democrat Party, but also Hillary Clinton, that they're trying to, get the gang back together to have another round of things. She was a terrifically bad candidate in 2016, forgetting to visit the state of Wisconsin, being so unlikable that Americans really could not envision, so many Americans couldn't envision voting for her. But it really is a testament to how dire the Democrat Party's situation is right now, that they don't have a good bench, and they are looking for someone who at least seemed more competent than Joe Biden does.
And the DNC chair, Stephen, tried to spin the Democrats' dire situation this way. Watch.
We are seeing right now an energy and an activism, particularly amongst women, that we have not seen since the election of Donald Trump and the march, Women's March. We have to make sure that we push back against these Republican efforts to take away American rights.
Stephen, the Cook Political Report today came out with an analysis of 8 new races. 6 of them are now pointing toward the Republicans. That's in addition to the other 30 or 35 or so. I think they think maybe 25 seats so far for the Republicans as a pickup. I don't know what fantasy land he's living in, but this doesn't seem like it's going in their direction.
Well, they're right. They are energizing women to run as fast and as far as they can from the Democratic Party and into the arms of Republican candidates. I mean, you saw history being made when Congresswoman Flores won in an 84% Democrat Latino district and won convincingly in a special election. The first Mexican-born congresswoman in the United States of America. All the Democrats have to offer is this circus show of conspiracy theories and witch hunts on January 6th, and now this new immediately debunked James Bond fantasy, and opening right about this crazy story about trying to commandeer a vehicle that was debunked within 30 minutes of it being told, and then of course they have this single issue of late-term abortion on demand through the 9th month. So we're saying we want to create more jobs, we want to create more opportunity, we want to create safety, we want to secure the border, we want to lower inflation, and all they're saying is we've got January 6th and abortion clinics. That's it.
And Molly, to Stephen's last point there, I want to move on to this disaster on the Hill today. This Cassidy Hutchinson wasn't the only one caught lying.
If you had any question about whether the president knew these people were armed or that they were dangerous, I think it's pretty clear from that testimony today. He knew what a threat they posed, and yet he was insistent on marching to the Capitol to the point of potentially getting an altercation with his own Secret Service about it.
Molly, reaction to that from your old pal.
If Adam Schiff is saying something, it's a pretty good indication that it's not true. This committee has engaged in widespread manipulation of evidence. They are refusing to provide the testimony of people who dispute the narrative that they're trying to construct. They are really running roughshod over our American ideals of what should happen when you accuse people of crimes and whether there should be ability to make a defense or have a cross-examination. I mean, those rights are enshrined in the Constitution, and our congressional committees are supposed to honor that in the way that they conduct their hearings. That has not been the case since day one. And today, this was just absurd. And I have to say, if you believed this absolutely ludicrous story from this person, even before it was disputed by everyone on the record, you should not be involved in politics, in journalism, and you should really think deeply about whether you're able to really analyze information at the level that you should.
Yeah, these are so-called journalists, Stephen. I've written in the Beast a few times, and I couldn't remember if you could even reach across. Can you even reach that way to get? I couldn't remember, but it's the whole story seemed ridiculous. But you knew Cassidy Hutchinson. What kind of a I've met her a few times, but I didn't really have much contact. What kind of person is she?
She's an extremely junior, low-level aide. I don't think I ever had a conversation with her that I can at least recall of any substance or depth. But to Molly's point, this is a Rorschach test for your sanity. If you heard this story and you thought, man, I believe every word of this, I'm going to go online and say something about it energetically, something is wrong with you. Something is wrong with you if you're that gullible, especially after 5 years of the hoaxes and the witch hunts and the fabrications. People keep falling for it again and again and again and again. At what point do people just lose their credibility?
And Molly, do you notice she kept saying something to that effect? She kept couching everything she said. A lot of it was hearsay, obviously not admissible in any kind of real court. But she kept saying something to that effect, whether it was about Trump's reaction to Pence and the hanging chant or but I found it was like she was auditioning for a seat at The View or the real staffers of Pennsylvania Avenue or something. It just seemed like an audition tape that wasn't going well for her. God bless her. I mean, I don't know. I don't know her well, but it just seemed bad.
Well, I mean, when you have people coming out and saying that they did not, in fact, tell this information that she claimed that she had been told by them, it is probably wise of her to distance herself from her own testimony. But again, this is really the fault of the committee. There is not a single Republican-appointed member of this committee. They're not engaged in any rights of minorities. They're not engaged in any back and forth on evidence. They are lying, and they've done it with really high-level witnesses, and it has massive implications because the Department of Justice appears to just be following their lead in what they're choosing to prosecute and who they're choosing to target. This is a really serious attack on the country and on our norms. And I know a lot of people on the right are checking out because it is so absurd, but what they're doing is very damaging and very dangerous.
Amen.
Now, I'm glad you said that, Stephen. They're trying to make her out to be like Alexander Vindman, right? Like she's the new Vindman for this latest chapter in the attacks on him.
Well, if she tries to start a war in Europe, maybe she will be Alexander Vindman. But look, the bottom line here is that these Secret Service agents that we're seeing, according to news reports that are vociferously rebutting this, these are decades-long, distinguished, career, nonpartisan law enforcement officers. It doesn't get more credible than that when it comes to rebutting a fantastical fairy tale.
Aside from the fact that it looks like she wanted to go down to Mar-a-Lago and work down there. And I guess she was next.
Exactly.
I mean, she was on the manifest at one point, one of the staffers told me. Molly, Stephen, great to see you both. And tonight is also primary night across the country, and our own Brett Baer is manning the touchscreen tonight to take us through some of the big primary contests. Brett, where are you taking us first, pray tell?
We'll take a little tour here. Good evening, Laura. Let's start in the governor's races. You know, we've got 5 states with primaries tonight. We have 2 runoffs, 1 special election. But let's go here to New York. The current incumbent winning overwhelmingly. Not a surprise there, but the race is still ongoing on the Republican side. Representative Lee Zeldin holding 41%. There's roughly 40% in. And Andrew Giuliani with 24.6. If you look at this is the area for Giuliani's support. Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, Staten Island. He's leading in all of those places. However, as you look at the state, Zeldin is well positioned. He had the endorsement of the state committee and Vice President Mike Pence, former Vice President, campaigning for him. We'll watch this with 40% in. And let's head back out to Illinois. Here you
just running these moon videos through from the Miguel Everyone channel. I did 2 of them that I uploaded last night, and I looked at them and they're very blurry from the filter. So I took the filter off and I'm running them through again today to see what they look like without the filter. And I'm not doing a lot of going in on them and stuff because I wasted 20 minutes yesterday doing that, so I can see it all. Maybe I'll point some things out later, we'll see. So anyways, 360s on the telescope with my camera, and digital collection of electromagnetic nanocarbon from the area we call the moon. Okay, so I got a video here, Jordan Peterson talking about Trump. I like Jordan Peterson. I'm back and forth with him every day because I'm watching these videos, and I think he may have just bought into, again, like we all do, product of our environment, and he might just be the same exact thing. Here he is ready to beef up Trump. In this video, he's beefing up Elon Musk, he's beefing up Joe Rogan, just some of these people that he's beefing up, holding hands with, are the biggest liars. Not some of the biggest liars, they are literally the biggest liars, standing right next to some of the other biggest liars on many other sides. The question is, who's a purposeful liar, who's an incidental, coincidental liar, who is just a product of our environment, who has been raised up over the time to these false positions, to these lies, I guess. Let's see what he's got to say. I haven't heard this one yet. I don't believe. We'll find out right now.
Judge the success of an American president. Not engaging in a stupid war is a nice start.
Oh, I heard a little bit of this.
Trump is an anomaly, in my estimation.
Yeah, he's an anomaly, all right.
He isn't a typical Republican. He's quite bombastic and assertive. He's not a typical conservative. In fact, he wasn't a conservative, I don't think, at all.
Registered Democrat.
Well, yeah, and he's got an entrepreneurial bent as well. And entrepreneurial types tend to be liberal.
That's where he sold himself, I suppose, as president.
Well, he is an entrepreneur. He's an author. He had a successful TV show. He's had his real estate dealings, and you can quibble about how successful he was at some of those things. He was certainly successful on TV, and so he's got an entrepreneurial temperament. So he's a strange person. He's an idiosyncratic person. And the one thing I would say in his favor, as far as I'm concerned so far, is that he has not embroiled the U.S. in an additional stupid war. And that's happened a lot in the last 15 years, and the fact that that hasn't happened so far, I'm quite happy about. So he's noisy, he's provocative, that's for sure. He seems impulsive, although it's hard to tell how much of that is crafted, He's definitely disagreeable, which is quite interesting, and that comes out in his Twitter behavior and so forth, and in the way that he handles his political allies, for that matter. He's certainly not currying favor, and you can make the case that he's a divisive figure, and perhaps that's the case. The Trump phenomena probably worries me less than people think it should, but there are reasons for that. The first reason is that I don't really think that the American people are more polarized now than they were 10 years ago. And the reason I think that is because for 20 years, 50% of them have voted for Republicans, 50% of them have voted for Democrats. It hasn't moved. It's been exactly the same.
Yeah.
I don't think that the Americans are any more polarized than they were under Nixon. And then that was pretty polarized.
Of course not. They're programmed in every
There was
direction.
violence on the
They're all
campuses. There was more
pre-programmed.
violence in that period of time than there is now. I don't think that it's obvious that the Americans are more polarized than they were under Reagan. Maybe they are, but I don't think it's worse than under Nixon. And so they've muddled through this sort of thing before. America's very more upset than I've seen it. People are more upset in the United States than I've seen. Certainly, I lived there for 6 years in the 90s, and people are more upset now than they were then. The tension is palpable. But I'm not convinced that that reflects a genuine polarization on the part of the populace itself. There's lots of factors at play. What I'm hoping for is a return to normative incompetence among politicians.
What do you think the people are going to do when they find out that they've been lied to about absolutely everything? Outer space is a lie, right? How do you think they're going to figure that out? Weather, God, you name it, that they've been lied about absolutely everything when they realize and break their programs. So don't you think they're going to be a little upset? Hello? Don't you think they're going to be a little upset when they find out about all this? Of course they are. That's why you can't allow them to wake up. That's why it's so hard for me, someone like myself, to really truly wake anyone up. That's why all these saboteur methods are all put in play. For people like myself, we're trying to show people the real true system. So, will anybody ever find out? Will the masses ever really realize it? Will they ever really look? I don't think so. I think that they're, even as I've been showing this to people over the years and showing them the true system, what happens is the mirror neuron manipulator kicks in and protects that mirror neuron from harm, protects the human from harm. And when just on a 1-to-1 scale, just one person by the next, even singular, they don't want to admit it. They don't want to come to terms with themselves. They don't want to admit that they have been lied to. They don't want to admit that they're a liar. None of us do. We don't want to admit these things because it hurts, especially. And then you're going to think about it. We're all so pumped up on ego and consider ourselves such geniuses that to face the fact that actually the term genius has an opposite meaning. We're not so fucking smart. So you spend all this generation after generation spending time and money on educating their kids, and to find out that all the education, all of it was a joke, and it was all garbage, from language to math to science to religion to philosophy. It's all been a lie. So of course, people are going to be a little upset, when they admit it. So not much to worry about is what I'm saying, because they're not going to admit it. They're not going to use their mirror neuron to just face their mirror neuron the way we've been watching Jordan Peterson face his mirror neuron, to face some lies, a few lies, because we can handle a few lies, but to open our eyes all the way, to really truly awaken, I don't know about that. I don't know that it's going to happen.
I mean, how do you judge the success of an American president? Not engaging in a stupid war is a nice start. Trump is an anomaly, in my estimation. He isn't a typical Republican. He's quite bombastic and assertive. He's not a typical conservative. In fact, he wasn't a conservative, I don't think,
He's
at all
a
before.
registered Democrat.
Well, yeah, and he's got an entrepreneurial bent as well. And entrepreneurial types tend to be liberal.
That's what he sold.
Let me tell you something about Trump. He is palling around inside the True Creator's energy with Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Obama. They're all in on it together. They're all in on it. When you start to learn how to use the True Creator's energy to go in and communicate with and to move around in, you're not going to take your carbon shell with you when you do this. Don't worry about it. Don't think of it as any religious bullshit, because you're going to realize all the highest priests, all the highest churches, they're all in there using it as well. They know how to use the system that the rest of us, don't know how to use. And I'm just now getting to know it, and it's taken me years, Steven, just to get to know it, because there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of taking your conscience with you sometimes you do, but it's not a good idea. All kinds of things that come into play with it. A lot to learn, let's put it that way. So they've been using it for years. There's even some that we think are low-level people, humans, low-level humans, in other words, like myself, that don't belong to anyone, and we're not affiliated with a corporation or anything, and even we are in there as well, knowing the system and knowing how to use it. So now that I've been learning how to use it, you can go in there, you can use it as well. But what you're going to find is that the people that you thought were all divided, and you thought that because we are divided here in the conscious realm, yes, but for them it's just an act. They don't even have to call each other on a phone. They don't have to email or tweet each other, whatever the hell you call it. They don't have to do any of that. They know they can put out what you call sound bites. They can put out one word that the rest of them all hear. All their enemies hear it, and they know that they're ready for the next play in the game just by that one word. So consciously put the word out there. They don't have to go and use the true creators. In other words, there won't be any mistake. There's no mistaking anything. Hillary Clinton knows when she's going to go do a newscast based on when Trump and Obama say a single word. Kind of like I said before in other videos, just like when Obama came out and started the Flat Earth movement. That was his part of the Flat Earth movement. All the books were already written. The websites were already set up. All the actors were in place. Obama comes out on stage. I don't have time for a meeting with the Flat Earth Society, right? Flat Earth Society was put in a year and a half earlier. We were already putting the term flat earth in our school books, saying that people under the geocentric model thought the earth was flat, which is not true. They never thought the earth was flat. Nobody ever was that fucking intelligent until just recently, until the last maybe 500 years. Before that, thousands of years ago, just within the last probably 5,000 to 6,000 years, we knew what this system was. We knew everything about it. Now, the masses don't know anything about it. We all look to our TV screens, newspapers, books, religious writings, priests, politicians, teachers, parents, all these people to lie to us so that we don't have to face reality. It's amazing. And listening to Elon Musk yesterday really pissed me off. I don't even know if I'm going to put it on again today because so many people believe such nonsense. I mean, it's really a lot of garbage, and this is what we're going to do. Keep going along with this garbage. It's ridiculous. I can't do it.
An entrepreneur. He's an author. He had a successful TV show. He's had his real estate dealings, and you can quibble about how successful he was at some of those things. He was certainly successful on TV. And so he's got an entrepreneurial temperament. So he's a strange person. He's an idiosyncratic person. And the one thing I would say in his favor, as far as I'm concerned so far, is that he has not embroiled the U.S. in an additional stupid war. And that's happened a lot in the last 15 years. And the fact that that hasn't happened so far, I'm quite happy about. So he's noisy. He's provocative, that's for sure. He seems impulsive, although it's hard to tell how much of that is crafted, you know. He's definitely disagreeable, which is quite interesting, and that comes out in his Twitter behavior and so forth, and in the way that he handles his political allies, for that matter. He's certainly not currying favor, and you can make the case that he's a divisive figure, and perhaps that's the case. The Trump phenomena probably worries me less than people think it should. But there are reasons for that. The first reason is that I don't really think that the American people are more polarized now than they were 10 years ago. And the reason I think that is because for 20 years, 50% of them have voted for Republicans, 50% of them have voted for Democrats. It hasn't moved. It's been exactly the same. I don't think that the Americans are any more polarized than they were under Nixon. And then that was pretty polarized. Like, there was violence on the campuses. There was more violence in that period of time than there is now. I don't think that it's obvious that the Americans are more polarized than they were under Reagan. Maybe they are, but I don't think it's worse than under Nixon. And so they've muddled through this sort of thing before. America's very more upset than I've seen it. People are more upset in the United States than I've seen. Certainly, I lived there for 6 years in the 90s, and people are more upset now than they were then. The tension is palpable. But I'm not convinced that that reflects a genuine polarization on the part of the populace itself. There's lots of factors at play. What I'm hoping for is a return to normative incompetence among politicians. That would be really nice. Moderate left, moderate right, reasonable discussion, certain underlay of ineradicable corruption, small-scale corruption that you always see in political systems, but none of this ideological excess. That would be lovely. So I'm not too worried about the situation in the United States. I think the Americans have been through far worse than what they're going through now. The economy's in reasonable shape, although people argue about how sustainable that is. It could be worse, and how do you judge the success of an American president? Not engaging in a stupid war is a nice start. And I have sympathy for politicians in general in the United States. Congress people have very hard jobs. It's not a job I would like. I don't think it's a pleasant job. They spend a lot of their time fundraising, 25 hours a week, on the phone, out of their congressional offices, because otherwise they're not supported by their party leadership. 40% of them sleep in their offices when they go to Washington. They don't even have apartments. Those that do usually have little bitty apartments. Their families aren't there because it's hard to get families to move to Washington now with dual career families. They don't have much of a social group. They have to run for their job every 2 years. This is not plus they're under attack all the time, and they're micromanaged and microscheduled. The way to re-election is through a better story, but that's not the reason to tell it. The reason to tell it is because you believe it. And for the first time in my life, really, I believe this to be the case, conservatives really have something to sell to young people.
Yeah,
and they can sell the meaning of responsibility, because young people are bereft of meaning, and most people find meaning in responsibility. And when the right talks about responsibility, they kind of do it in that finger-wagging way that makes conservatives unpopular among young people. You should be responsible. It's like, yeah, you should. Why? Well, because your life is chaotic and meaningless, and you're stuck in this juvenile surreality, and it's really painful for you, and you're anxious and aimless and goalless. And then you look at people who have a life, because maybe you could have a life, and you think, well, what does that life consist of? It's like, well, you have a committed, intimate relationship. There's one. You have friends that you're honest with and playful with. Mm-hmm. So you have a group of...
That's almost impossible, Jordan. We're lied to about everything. Everything. I'm going to have to calm down and take this a little bit at a time. When we're lied to about every fucking thing that happens, whether it's the medical industry, the education system, politics, life itself, all the other religions, science, outer space, monetary system, you name it, all based on lies. And deep down in our subconscious, we all know this to be true, what it is I'm saying about it all being lies. We all know this. Instinctually, we know this, that we're being lied to. And we will not look for ourselves. We will not go look for ourselves and make these determinations. We're outnumbered by 7-8 million. In our country, you want to say 350, 380 million, fine. But it's the whole 7.8 billion, all in different ways. I don't know.
Group of friends. You have a job or a career. You learn how to use your time outside of work in a productive, engaging way. You regulate your susceptibility to the multitude of hedonistic temptations that are in front of you. You pay some attention to your mental and physical health. You make a goal, some goals for the future that are concrete. Well, there's 7 things you can do. They're all responsible things. Why? Because then your life will have some meaning. Now, you might say, well, what's the ultimate meaning? It's like, get those things straight first. They're not nothing. And maybe you won't be so damn miserable and bitter and resentful and angry and aimless and anxious and frustrated and disappointed and ashamed if you had 5 of those 7 things going well. And the conservatives can make that case. No, bloody left isn't making that case. It's like for them, responsibility is pretty much equivalent to totalitarian patriarchal oppression. The conservatives could just take that and say, no, our institutions, they're pretty solid. Maybe if you don't like what's happening on the political front, you join a group, a church, the Elks, the Rotary, some civic organization. Get in there and do your part. Why? Not because you should, even though you should, but because, well, why not meet some people who are like-minded and have a social group? You know, who can predict the future even a year out, especially given the rate of technological change that we face now? I mean, you don't even know what's happening today. There's so many technological transformations just today, many of which have world-shaping consequences. God only knows where we're going to be by the time of the next presidential election, but it certainly does seem to me the case that the Democrats are going to lose big in the fall. And so, you know, that's what we'll focus on for the time being.
There's a branch from a tree that's in my telescope right here.
Good to have you guys here.
Hey, we're pretty happy to be here in Nashville talking about this.
Yeah, pleasure.
Julian,
Hello.
the elusive Peterson, finally cornered into a podcast.
I know, eh? Yeah.
It's been a while.
It takes a lot of work to corner him.
A lot of work. I think, I don't know if this was cornering. I think.
Yeah, the least cornerable Peterson, for sure.
Yeah, and that might be saying something.
Who's the most cornerable Peterson?
Elliot.
Yeah, for now.
For now. Let's see, yeah.
Yeah.
Good one.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so today.
Yeah, it's not my dad.
It's not your dad.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, Elliot.
It's not Scarlett.
No.
It's Elliot for now. For now, yeah. So today we're going to talk about essay, mainly, and then I'm also going to throw in some questions because I think people are dying to know everything about you.
Good luck.
Well, he is.
Yeah.
Well, he is interesting, you know.
Okay, Julian.
Yes.
Why did it take you so long to agree to talk to me over the interweb?
Well, I like my privacy. I've always liked my privacy, but I think that's most of it. I don't really have a lot of interest in being a public person. If I am public in any way, then I generally, I'm quite sure that I prefer it to be about something that I've done. And I didn't really feel like I had done anything that was particularly, useful, let's say, to talk about to other people. And so, I have a really nice life, and I like my little family and my, the fact that it's relatively contained from the world. And, I don't really ever want to give that up, but I do have interest in sharing things that I've done that I feel like are going to be meaningful for other people, whether that is, this application, which I'm really proud of, or, the album that I released last year, although I didn't really talk about that.
We're going to talk about that.
But I think that's why mostly is I'm.
You wanted to wait till you had something to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the problem in your position is that people would be interested in you in some sense for peripheral reasons.
For sure, yeah.
And you could certainly, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And you could sate that demand if you felt like it, but it seems to me that waiting until you have something.
I don't feel like it.
Yeah, yeah.